Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. My name is Mark R. LePage, and you are listening to Entre Architect Podcast, where each week I speak with inspiring, passionate people who share their knowledge and expertise, all to help you build a better business as a small firm entrepreneur architect. Adam Stark, welcome to Entre Architect Podcast.
Mark, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Adam's real estate career began as an owner's rep at a New York-based developer. And there, Adam achieved the title and responsibility of VP of Construction and Development. And with years of experience on job sites, Adam completed dozens of multi-million-dollar, high-complexity development projects. And alongside his co-founder, Adam recognized the inefficiencies of multi-company stakeholder accountability for development and construction operations management. And as a result, after years of coding a solution with his co-founder, they launched a VC-backed real estate development and construction command center. It's called Jet.Build. Jet.Build is where you could find it. And today we're going to talk to Adam and learn his story and learn all about Jet.Build and how it may transition and transform the construction industry. Adam, welcome.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and kick it off with the story of Jet.Build and why I'm here.
Yeah, before you do that, I want to know more about you. I want to know your story before we even get into Jet.Build.
Totally.
Go back as far as you want to go back and share, when did you discover your passion for what you're doing today? And maybe what even inspired you to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's funny is my founder story and the company story has some overlap in terms of how I got into the industry itself. With that said, I kind of had this affinity for Legos back in childhood. I always loved building things, creating stuff, having design elements that had, a physical outcome, right? A tangible result from your efforts. And, undergraduate degree, I studied business. When I finished that degree, I just happened to be in the right time and right place where I found the opportunity to start off with that real estate developer in New York City. Early first 2 years, first year, second year was really just learning like it would be for anyone in any industry. I recognized kind of those connection points between what I liked in childhood, like I brought up, between, Legos, design, building things, and actually doing that as a profession. And kind of just grew from there. That's the origination of the story and how I got into development and construction.
So you worked for a development company.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you do for the development company?
Yeah, so I started off managing projects under director of construction type title. And there I learned the ins and outs of how operations and processes function on a construction project, from inception through design phases, through construction phases, and then hand off to asset management when project was completed. With that said, we were very hands-on developers. So we were on construction sites, we meaning the management team, were on construction sites on a daily basis, quite literally. So my day started every single day of the week on whatever job I was supporting to manage in the earlier days of my career there, which eventually led to me running the project myself. So that's kind of the dynamic.
What type of work did you do? What kind of buildings?
They were mainly high-rise mixed use. So it'll be, commercial on the ground floor, then either a mix of residential and hotel or office space, but really kind of those three versions, I'll call it. So commercial, office, and residential.
Yeah. And so you met your co-founder there too?
Yeah, correct. So going back one step is Joseph, my co-founder, and I actually know each other from childhood.
Oh, cool.
Where we were first enemies because we played high school sports against one another.
Rivals.
Exactly. And then we both actually end up in the same enlistment in the Israeli military. So we were both airborne, so paratroopers. And then somehow we both end up back in New York City working for developers, like I was mentioning, different companies, but very similar. They were family offices, building high-rise type properties. And, when we would just meet up as friends, we'd realize this was real quick, real early on, right? We'd realize, wait a second, like this element of trying to track accountability, trying to understand who's responsible for what. So transparency over the project with Excel files and email chains is insanity. And that's when we said, we've got to figure out a way to better do things, right? Better manage what we're doing. We want to free up space as it relates to just those administrative tasks, consolidating information on these Excel files, then reminding people consistently, whether it be a phone call, an email, you name it. Say, let's figure out how to do all of this better so we can be better at proactively making decisions on our projects rather than, holding our tails all of the time. And we went to the market to look at what existed in terms of management solution software, recognize the legacy players in the market, immediately face friction with those options, those legacy products for two general points. And those points I hear really on a daily basis now. So in some ways, kind of validating, I'll call it, which is pricing friction and just the back-end usability friction. So just difficult to understand the interface. And that's when we said, forget all of this. We'll just create a solution for ourselves. So Joseph, being the mastermind that he is, he understands how to code, so computer engineer. And we just started architecting, right, building code funny difference between product development and property development. So definitely confusing overlap of words there. But we started to code, like computer engineer, a solution for ourselves where, we began on RFI and submittal file and workflow management, drawing and file management. And what we layered into these features in the early days, in the early stages of our product, was kind of those accountability measures that allowed for space on administrative tasks. And what I mean by that is simply saying, all right, you have a submittal or an RFI that you need responses from, whether it be from your trades, your design team, the developer. So let's create a workflow in order of who needs to respond and with due dates. And what's going to happen in using a software is it'll just automate reminders so that it'll remove all of those kind of silly, time sucking tasks from everyone. And it was really quick for us to realize that it was doing just that, right? We had just a simple backend, simple product. And with that realization that it worked, we said, all right, let's just continue to build this here. Let's continue to add features. And that's what we did. So, we went to punch lists, to insurance management, to creating budgets, to meeting minutes, to Gantt chart scheduling, to data reporting that was pulling information from all those entries. And eventually we really just created, almost accidentally, right? Just by nature of needing it ourselves, created this end-to-end solution that was really covering all of your operation necessities for a project. And that's when we said, wow, this is actually working. We were able to onboard some design clients, as we call it. So early stage clients, just via our network, of builders being in the industry, realized that it was working for them also. So it wasn't only our opinion, right? And that's when we said, hey, you know what? We have an opportunity here to really create a product that's going to remove the frictions of these legacy products, right? We'll price it in a way that's cost effective to the scale of your company. And then two, it'll be intuitive because it's a new tech stack build, right? It's just simplified, especially because, we built it coming from the perspective of being on job sites and understanding what's really needed. So that's to say, imagine a phone or a computer built in the late 90s versus built today, just kind of almost objective, right? Just face value recognition of simplicity changes on a product, intuitive nature of how things are built today. And with all of that, we were able to raise a round of capital with Shadow Partners, real estate tech focused VC, really awesome team. Recommend looking into them.
You've had P on the show.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, amazing. I'm going to go back and hear that. I know you've had some other Shadow Partner companies. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the full story. And now we're growing our brand. So, growing the business, growing the product, as is a never ending cycle of product development. And it's been really exciting.
Let's go back to the beginning of where you realized there was a need for this.
Sure.
And you started building the solution. When you started building that solution with your co-founder, did you have the idea that, we'll build this and we'll see if it'll work, and if it works, we'll turn it into a company? Or was it just a solution for yourselves to do your job more efficiently? And then at some point it became, a realization that it could be something that the market would want?
Yeah, totally. So it started off as like, let's do what we're doing better. Let's simplify our lives, right? With that said, it's not that we were creating the wheel, right? I mean, we understood that solutions existed. And with that, we were able to kind of leverage conceptually, it's no secret how people operate. Everyone needs a budget. Everyone needs a schedule. Everyone needs a RFI and submittal process. So it was really just pulling from the tools that everybody was anyways using on job sites and just saying, okay, let's take that away from your siloed environment and bring it onto a cloud platform where everyone could collaborate on. We do have permission controls as well. So whether that be a budget, whether that be trying to track, insurance, whether that be submittal and RFIs, whether that be issuing working sets for drawings, so on and so forth. So it started off just let's simplify our lives, but then kind of quickly we started realizing, because obviously projects you work with external stakeholders like design teams, contracting teams, developer teams, et cetera. So we quickly realized, this is helping them as well, right? Everybody is doing less administrative tasks for really no reason.
And obviously it works for any construction project, but it's really focused on the development industry. Is that right?
No, so it works, that was our kind of perspective where we came from as the builder owner. With that said, I mean, we have clients that range from home builders to contracting teams to design teams as well. So engineers and architects, as well as developers, of course. And it really just depends on your, I'll call it, responsibilities in a project. So, I used to work with architects who were also managing a lot of the project. So for a firm like that, it'd be very useful for them, right?
Yeah.
For example, again, on this architect kind of perspective, you'll have very simplified reporting to whoever your client is, whether that be RFI submittal status, whether that be a budget status, whether that be issuing, images or drawings. So we created a really simple way of sharing information.
So how far along in development are you with the company? You mentioned that it does a lot of things, right? That you started one thing and it worked, and then you said, oh, let's do these other things. And when you look at the website, it's like a whole list of features that it does. I mean, it really takes care of the entire project from the beginning to the end. Where are you in terms of the company, in the development of the company?
Yeah, totally. So we actually released our product in 2020 to the market. So we ran through all of, that backstory I was mentioning, the initial phases, beta phases, and then released to market in 2020. With that said, it was more recent that we raised around with shadow partners. While between, 2017 when we started creating Jet.Build all the way until about a year ago when we closed a round of fundraising, it was all, still operating with clients that we onboarded just by virtue of being in the business. It was still operating because we were using it, right, for our projects. So today, what we've done is, with the ability to focus on the product full time, is we've really created lots of differentiation as it relates to further the intuitive nature of the product, some robust capabilities if you want. And what I mean by that is, you could take the product and run with it on a very simple way, but you could also dive into lots of complexities like linking RFIs to drawing sheets, linking specifications to submittals and vice versa, to, bid management, forecasting. So you could go in a very robust nature with the product. So that's what we've been doing kind of since focusing full time.
So it's very flexible, right? So somebody can use it just for this one thing that they need it for, or they can go as deep as they want to go.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Can you talk about the VC process, the funding process? How transparent can you be? Not necessarily numbers, unless you want to share those numbers. That would be interesting as well. But the process of working with a venture capital firm to take that idea to the next level. Can you talk about that process?
Totally. So what's interesting about the way in which we raise capital is that we built this product prior to engaging with capital, with money, with VC, private investors, et cetera. So that's a little bit different than a company who's starting, pitching an idea or a somewhat finished product with a concept. Rather, we were our own use case proof of concept. We had a few of those design clients, so early stage clients, as additional kind of proof of concept before engaging in the market. With that said, I think our industry as a whole, so I'll just bundle that into saying real estate technology, is, an industry that needs to move forward as it relates to tech and stop being this laggard. Granted, I want to, give some, I'll call it, respect to the fact that it's such a complex process with multi-company stakeholder teams, which I think is relatively unusual to business at large. But with that said, if you have a concept that you felt the pain point yourself, start building a solution, start ideating toward, how you could solve that pain point, create something, right? Try to test it the best that you can, whether that be internal with yourself personally, internal with your company that you're working for, internal with friends, family type scenario, and then leverage that, right? Leverage something to then take to venture capital so that you can pitch better, I'll call it, and then kind of jumpstart your idea and company.
Did you pitch to multiple VCs or just the Shadow?
Yeah, no. So we have a few VCs on our first round that we raised. Shadow led the round. So yeah, we pitched to a few. Again, given the concept of having a ready product, yet entering as a first fundraising round, grateful to not have had so much friction in closing our first round.
Let's take a quick break to say thank you to our sponsors for their support of this episode. Accurate data is crucial, especially in today's business environment. Outdated and inaccurate data leads to turnarounds, delays, and rising costs. With supply chain and staffing issues, these costs and delays can multiply. That's why a resource like RCAT.com is so important. RCAT works with manufacturers to keep their data up to date and accurate, and offers it to you easily accessible and free. use ARCAT's powerful search engine to find what you need fast and download it right there on their site without needing to pay for anything. It's free. You don't even have to register. So go try arcat.com today. That's ARCAT.com. Unlock your full potential as an architect business owner at Entre Architect Network. Since 2013, Entre Architect has been the premier membership community designed exclusively for small firm entrepreneur architects like you. Join a vibrant community of like-minded professionals and gain access to a wealth of resources, mentorship, and support. From comprehensive courses to expert guidance, Entre Architect Network equips you with the necessary tools to thrive in your career. Master business strategies, enhance your marketing techniques, and excel in project management, all while fulfilling your continuing education requirements along the way. Break free from the isolation and connect with a supportive network that understands the unique challenges that you face as an architect business owner. Whether you're a startup architect or a seasoned professional looking to make a difference, join us, and we will help you elevate your career, boost your confidence, and unlock opportunities for your architecture firm. When our community of entrepreneur architects is linked and leveraged as one, there's no limit to the impact that we can have on the world. Visit entrearchitect.com today and become part of our thriving network. Unleash the full potential of your architecture business. Join Entre Architect Network today, the premier global business organization for small firm architects. Learn more at entrearchitect.com. We're talking to people who don't really understand or may not understand that process, and I'm interested in that process. And so,
Totally.
And I know from talking with KP and him talking about Shadow, who's the founder of Shadow Ventures, that he's simply open, right? That if you're interested in talking to him, there's a link on his website that you can pitch an idea and they'll call you and talk to you about it. And other VCs aren't so easy to get to, right? Mm-hmm. That you sort of have to find your way to the right people and have those conversations. Did you have that experience with the other VCs that you're working with? How did you sort of put together your team of VCs?
Totally. So I actually leveraged the network approach in terms of getting time to speak to people. With that said, I would suggest it's kind of like trying to get a hold of anyone in any industry for any circumstance. Is you got to expect that, people have a million things on their plate as well.
Right.
So you got to just do your best. You got to reach out to as many people as you want. I would recommend starting with VCs who are focused in the same general industry and vision that you have for whatever you're trying to build and pitch. So I think that's really important if you're able to achieve that. And then as a secondary, it's, I'll call it, for lack of a better term, shotgun approach. I mean, reach out to as many people and as many VCs as you can. Don't always expect something, rather, engage in a networking type of perspective when you go into it and allow that to grow into hopefully and potentially more if the fit is proper. With that said, I think depending on the stage, also that for context, this is probably good to note. Depending on the stage, it will be either simpler, I'll call it, or more difficult, right? So if you're trying to raise seed funds, right, which is going to be not an insane amount like you probably see on the news, companies raising 30 plus million, et cetera. It's, likely a little bit simpler for companies to invest a few 100,000 versus a few 100 million, right? So that's also a relevant point to consider.
Is your team of VCs all based in the construction industry?
Correct, yeah.
So that's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Can you disclose how much you raised?
Yeah, we closed a round of just under $1 million to kick us off, right, to help us launch our product.
Yeah.
Which is very sufficient for us in terms of having a really healthy runway. Reason being, we had clients before raising. We had a product ready before raising. So capital went straight to business development and product development rather than product ideation and creation. So that's really supportive in terms of allowing us a lot of healthy, conservative runway without pressures that other companies may face in earlier stages.
And that's still considered seed, even though you had a product already developed. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so what's the future of Jet.Build look like in terms of both the product? Mm-hmm. So what's the future look like for the product as well as funding any sort of plans for growing the business?
Totally. So in terms of the product, similar to, I'll make this comparison first, is similar to, how Apple still pushes out software updates all the time. I mean,
Right.
just today I updated my computer. So software updates is a never ending cycle. So that's like on your baseline scenarios. We're always updating with new features. We take client feedback very seriously and we implement rapidly. We're able to do that because new tech architecture, right? So code is new and clean and simple to implement new features with. With that said, in terms of future outlook for the product, what's going to happen is we're going to amass enough data where we can create what we'll call proactive data reporting. So in understanding, for example, you're building X asset class in X area, right? Demographic with X size of property, you should expect this kind of cost at that kind of a schedule. So we'll be able to give kind of these insights based on amassing data of our clients that have built all of those criteria already. So that's one angle. Another angle will be kind of pulling, again, on the data play, is understanding rates across what I'll call commodities, right? So whether it be, glass, steel, concrete, et cetera. So we'll be able to provide similar kind of data reporting to our clients that would present them, you're building in this area with this amount of concrete, it should cost you roughly this amount, based on how others have built. So those are some concepts that we're building toward. On a business kind of perspective, what we have done is, created this baseline essential software. And what I mean by that is, again, it's that concept of these are all functions that everybody is doing, regardless of if you're using a software or Excel. You're creating a budget, you're going through submittals and R5s, you're sharing and storing drawings, et cetera. So the way that we built this in this intuitive nature, our vision here is to be the essential need, the kind of essential criteria for any project. And then from there, it'll say, yeah, you have some BIM software. Let's plug that in. Let's integrate. You have some, concrete pouring AI to give you, more accurate pouring and reduce your carbon footprint. Let's plug that and integrate that so we can understand how that affects the schedule for the positive, right? So that's kind of the outlook for the business. In terms of next round and fundraising, the reality is we have so much runway still that we're not focused on fundraising right now. That is to say, and that is to note that fundraising does take a ton of time and effort. So that will naturally pull away from the ability to grow your business. So yeah, we're very focused still on growth, networking, right? Allowing for more people to see Jet.Build as a name, hopefully reach out, hopefully get to show them a product demo and continue growing.
What have you found to be the hardest part of growing Jet.Build?
I think this is easy and I hope this is on point, but immediately what came to mind is timing. So of course, in our industry, right, timing is so critical. And what I mean by that is you've either started a project or you're gearing up for a project. And naturally so, I mean, I agree. It's obviously way more difficult to onboard or change a software while you've already started, while your project is already ongoing, right? Versus if you come in the conversation, luckily, if it happens to be that you've started a conversation with a potential client when they're gearing up for or ready for a project,
right?
Way different conversation, way simpler.
So it's finding the client with the projects that need your product now
right.
or in the near future, rather than somebody who's halfway through a major project on another platform
Totally.
where you essentially have to wait until they're done with that in order for them to get focused on changing their platform, which is probably also difficult, right? Once they've committed to a platform, it's hard for them to transition to another. So you have to have a pretty big reason for that.
Totally.
Recently, in the last year or so, AI has become, the buzzword has become, ubiquitous. It's clearly going to be a major component of everything we do in the future, right? Right now, it's sort of trendy and everybody's playing with it and experimenting with it. Mm-hmm. A lot of the VC-backed companies are AI-focused companies, right? But clearly AI is going to be integrated into everything we do. Mm-hmm. How does AI affect your product in the future?
It'll kind of integrate with or leverage a lot of those insights that I was talking about, right? So on a basic level, it'll say, hey, this is market data. This is what your project should look like. On a more robust intelligence, right, artificial intelligence level, it'll be able to tell you you're tracking incorrectly, tell you that you're purchasing wrong, right? And that's to say, if you want to believe it based on algorithms and the data. but it'll be able to give you, like I was mentioning before, a lot of those proactive decisions like, hey, this team is tracking on a lower performance than they should, right? So a lot of these kind of predictive analytics. Beyond that, it'll be also what I mentioned before, which is to say, we're focused on transforming companies on a very simple manner into a digital ecosystem. So we're coming in to be this kind of backbone structure. And then you could talk about as many AI, everything that you want that should integrate, right? Per specificity, per niche, right? So he's talked about concrete pouring. It could be AI for safety. It could be AI for imaging. It could be some AI on the BIM side. But they all need to connect into one system to consolidate all that information across the stakeholders. So that's kind of how we would envision the growth of AI in our industry, plugging into Jet and then producing a singular dashboard.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier that data is a critical piece of what you're building, right? That the more clients you have, the more data that's flowing through this product, the more valuable it becomes for everybody, right?
Totally.
The product becomes more robust. The ability to leverage AI with that data becomes more valuable. The company literally becomes more valuable as the data is collected. There's more data, the more accurate you can be, the more you can leverage it, the more valuable the company becomes. It's a very interesting model.
Totally.
And it's really exciting to sort of imagine where you can go in the future as you've developed this framework and what it can be as new technologies are added to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to give a little plug here for the architects of the world. I remember back in my days working on development projects, and there was this crazy just back and forth of trying to gather all this data, all this information from the architects, asking them to try and consolidate everything from the other teams for us, right? As the owner.
Right.
And it was so crazy. I mean, it doesn't make sense to ask anyone to be doing that. It doesn't end up producing a package of data that is like accessible, really. And, that's why Jet or something like it is so important, because first of all, it's all there. Nobody has to consolidate everything. It's all structured to whatever that data should be tied to, whether it's a schedule, a submittal, a punch list, etc. And then it's all, for historical reference, for migrating ability. So you can copy and paste across projects very, very easily in 2 clicks. So yeah, that's a part of what we're trying to support too, is allow companies and teams to just do better, because you're not asking anyone now to essentially consolidate and send over what is nonsense in the long term.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you're wondering, what it looks like, how it works, Jet.Build is the website. You can go to Jet.Build and see how it works, all the different features, how it might help you. Before we wrap up, Adam, I'd love to have you answer my final question that I ask all my guests. This is a business podcast. This is listened to by thousands of small firm business owners, architect business owners. And so I like to ask this question: what is one thing that a small firm architect can do today to build a better business for tomorrow?
Great question. I'm going to answer it in 2 ways. One, on the marketing side, and I'll suggest that you empower your people, your teams, especially if you are the face of your company, executive, founder, et cetera. Leverage LinkedIn. Start having a voice for yourself and see how that compounding network effect works for you. Just dedicate some time every day, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it will help you in your business. That's on the marketing side. And then in terms of the business side, we are working with architects who Jet, along with some other softwares, is they're providing value add. And it's not saying they're enforcing or pushing. It's saying, hey, we've worked with Jet before. This is a great solution for you and your company. We've worked with, this BIM software. It's a great solution for you and your company. So if you become aware of technologies and you present them as, viable options to clients that you're working for, I think it goes a long way in terms of how they'll perceive you for projects in the future.
His name is Adam Stark. Again, the company name is Jet.Build, and you can learn more about the company at Jet.Build. Adam, thank you. I appreciate you for developing products like this, trying to focus on making the workflow of construction better, right? Because as you do that, we can focus on building better buildings, designing better buildings, sort of taking all the stuff that we do that takes lots of time and lots of effort and lots of money, and making that simpler to do, right? To make that workflow work better allows us to focus on the things that we're really good at and make the world a better place. So I appreciate you for developing Jet.Build and coming by here and sharing your story and your knowledge at Entre Architect Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Mark. It was a really awesome conversation. I appreciate it a lot.
If you liked this episode of Entre Architect Podcast, please share a 5-star rating, write a quick review, and share a link to this episode with a friend, because that is how Entre Architect has grown to serve thousands more architects just like you. By sharing a rating, write a review, share a link to this episode with a friend. I appreciate you for that. Thank you to all our sponsors for this episode, ARCAT and Entre Architect Network. Links to sponsors and all the resources we discussed today are available at the show notes for this episode and every episode, found at entrearchitect.com/podcast. Entre Architect is a member of the Gable Media Podcast Network, the next evolution of interactive media and resources for the AEC community and beyond. You can now earn continuing education credits for listening to this podcast. Select episodes of Entre Architect Podcast are approved for AIA continuing education credit. Learn more about our new Gable Members program at gablemedia.com/members. That's GABL media.com/members. Thank you for listening to this episode of Entre Architect Podcast. My name is Mark R. LePage. Love, learn, and go share what you know.
Imagine earning continuing education credits while doing exactly what you're doing right now. Well, you can. Gable Media has revolutionized the way you earn your continuing education credits with a groundbreaking approach. Forget running around town and scouring the internet for credit-worthy courses. Fulfill your CE requirements effortlessly by listening to engaging podcasts just like the one you're listening to now. Our podcasts are designed to educate, entertain, and inspire, all in a user-friendly environment. But wait, there's more. Architects, Gable Media is also approved as an AIA continuing education services provider. Upon completion, we handle everything, from reporting your hours directly to the AIA to storing your certificates in your personal Gable Media profile for your self-reporting needs. So follow the link in the show notes and start earning your credits in the most innovative and entertaining way possible with Gable Media.
Attention architects and creative minds, get ready to supercharge your brand with Build Your Brand, the podcast that's unlocking the secrets of branding success for creatives. Hey there, it's Mark R. LePage, founder of Entre Architect, and I'm inviting you to join my friend, architect marketing expert Jeff Eccles at Build Your Brand podcast, where he explores the captivating stories of the world's top brands and transforms their lessons into powerful moves for small firm architects and creatives like you. In Season 1, Jeff shares the thrilling tale of Southwest Airlines, where he dissects their journey to the summit and distills it into strategies tailor-made for you.
It's important to keep in mind that companies like Southwest compete in the real world, just like you, and face real-world challenges, just like you. You might be surprised at how similar those challenges are to the struggles that you grapple with on a day-to-day basis.
Don't miss out on your blueprint for success. Subscribe, tune in, and let's build your brand together.
You may have noticed that the very best brands in the world are also known for having somewhat unique corporate cultures. That's often the glue that holds everything together when they encounter those rough spots.
We don't do it because it inconveniences the passengers to whom we are primarily dedicated, the short haul, frequent flyer.
Follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Your Brand today. Remember, no matter the size, the journey's the same. Your brand's journey to the top starts here.